So now that I'm happy with my normal baking for the weapons, I will save this map. I will save it in PNG using RGB because we don't need the alpha channel here. And then I will create a new map for the armor. So for the armor, as it's pretty dense, there is a lot of surface to be covered. I will go for a 8K map. I will then edit my shader in the node editor, load the armor baker, and then select the high poly mesh and then the low poly mesh for the shin guards and go into baking. As I've kept my former option regarding distance, I should get a nice normal map in the first shot. And then I will rapidly plug it into the node editor and test it by rendering rapidly the shin guard. Once I'm done with this part, I can repeat the process with all the different armor parts, so that's gonna be a bit long, I won't be showing it to you. So here I'm just testing the shader. Then I will get back in the 3D view, unshaded, and select one piece of high poly armor and the corresponding low poly armor piece. Click bake, uncheck the clear button, important, save my map, and go for all the pieces this way. Regarding most of our cloth parts that are using a solidify and a bevel modifier, I will make sure that those modifiers are not included in the rendering by unchecking the camera on those modifiers. I've sure previously created a separated map for those, all the close part, which is a 4K map, and I'm just baking all the normals. We won't be baking any normal for the body, teeth, etc. because there are no sculpted information, and our body, we will keep the multi-resolution modifier, so the detailed information are stored into the multi-resolution modifier. With all our normal maps baked, I will get back to the shield and set up a curvature shader so that we can bake those information. So I will get back into rendering mode, add an input geometry, select pointiness and plug it into a color ramp. Then I will control left click this color ramp to see the result. We will get a very subtle result, so I will then change the contrast, playing with the flag of the color ramp, pushing the first and the last toward the middle, so that I get a better contrast. With a value of 0.4 and 0.6, it looks okay. Now I can get back into the 3D viewport, select both my high poly model and then my low poly model. Then I will verify that I have loaded the weapon baker map, and I can go into the baking option. The viewer node used by the Node Wrangler is currently an emission shader, so we don't need to change it. And I switch the baking option from normals to emit. I can now bake it, and we have this nice curvature map. So there are a few little white dots that we will have to erase later on. I can now repeat the process on the sword and the different parts of the armor. Don't forget to uncheck clear in the baking option, and whenever you will start working on the armor, select the correct map in your node editor, reloading the armor baker. We can bake the curvature map or pointiness map onto our character also, because it's using a modifier. So instead of using the select to active, I will uncheck it, because we have only one mesh that will bake information from itself. I will repeat then the process for the tongue, the teeth, and the gums. To bake this map, I've been using an 8K texture for the character, and we can see here what's appearing with the pointiness. Now we will bake the AO for our character, and then we'll be baking the AO for the different objects. So in the case of our character, we just need here to switch to ambient occlusion, keep the select to active unchecked, and for the sampling I will be using 300 samples. That should be enough to get a pretty smooth ambient occlusion. So I just need now to click the bake button with my Dragon Knight Baker activated. So here is what our AO map look like for our character. I now need to bake the AO for the armor and weapon. So what you need to know when you will go into baking those things is that the ambient occlusion will calculate the distance between different objects. So if I am baking this part, it will be affected by this part, and also this one, and also this one, everything around it. So I need to isolate every object each time I want to bake them. So I select those both, move them onto a separated layer so that there is only the high poly mesh and the low poly one, and I will switch back to select to active with the clear option if needed. So each time you will bake one part of the armor, think to move it onto a separate layer. So once I'm done with baking this, I will move them back on this layer, select the next pieces and move them on this layer and bake again, and checking the clear option.